Welcome to We Are Women, Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
Hello and welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically. I am Jessica Cumming, and today I am honored to be accompanied by Hope Yin. She is an award-winning technology executive who has transitioned into entrepreneurship. Hope has inspired over 10,000 individuals, including at several of the world's largest conferences. As an award-winning ICF-certified executive coach, founder, and owner of Blueprint Coaching, Hope works with tech leaders to overcome challenges, build powerful personal brands, and achieve strategic career success. She partners with global companies and executives to elevate their leadership presence, foster team cultures, and drive business growth. Hope has a proven track record of 2 Fortune 200 companies. She has led enterprise cloud transformation, global talent development technology portfolio, ATM technology portfolio, modern tech leadership development programs, and other global initiatives. She has helped the companies win multiple industry awards through her work. Hope's journey from an immigrant to an established tech executive has given her unique insights in supporting others. Hope also holds 3 Masters of Science degrees in engineering. Hope, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hope, you have a very unique perspective, as we mentioned in your introduction. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey and what you have learned along the way?
Yeah, as you mentioned in my introduction, I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here when I was 25 years old. My identity is formed, but coming into a country that I don't speak the language, I don't know the culture, it was extremely difficult. Looking back, I wish I was more bold in terms of learning language, interacting with other people, and just be a little more fearless. But hindsight is always 2020. But I was able to push through. I was able to make myself work hard and being persistent. And eventually, I was able to graduate from the Ohio State University, got 2 master's degree, and then pivoted from being a software engineer to exactly leading global teams. And last year, August 2024, I did another leap. This time, I left my technology field that I have worked my whole career. And now I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm an advocate for women in tech. So our passions are aligned.
Yeah, they definitely are. You mentioned that you are from China. Can you tell me a little bit about how you learned English? And for anyone that may have English as their second language, what advice would you give them?
I did learn English in school, but more like a subject to learn. I can read books, write simple words, but I can't understand when people spoke and people couldn't understand my English. In school, I remember this professor, I was taking the class on artificial intelligence. AI is so popular now, but almost 3 decades ago. All I could understand was Deep Blue because at the time, the Deep Blue Sun computer beat chess champion. So, but by just reading book, by going to the professor's office hours, all of that, I was able to not only survive, but thrive academically. The true language, if you think about what I did in the beginning, was I was doing 2 steps of translation. If Jessica, you and I are talking, I will translate what you said into Chinese, then come up with the answer in Chinese, and then translate back to you. By that time, you already moved on. I already lost my opportunity to chime in. I remember particularly, it's more than a decade after I came here. One night, I started to dream in English. That was my turning point. However, in order to reach that point, it wasn't just naturally happened. I intentionally joined Toastmasters, practice my public speaking skills. It's nerve-wracking, but I will do it anyways. I was a community leader. It forced me to communicate. So all of that together, and also including I started to write a journal, a blog in English. So all of that combined, and also the experience with my work colleagues allowed me to one day, I started to think and dream and communicate in English without much difficulty. I still have difficulties sometimes trying to find the right words.
Wow, that's amazing. I know quite a few people that have not had English as their first language, did learn English when they were in school, but then it's one of those things where if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear your turning point on starting to dream in English and the confidence that it took to get to that point. You started feeling confident after you started doing it. So that's a very impressive story about how you continued to learn English. Tell me how you ended up being a single mother of two, trying to build a career, and what that taught you about the life that you wanted for your children, but also the resilience that came with it.
Yeah. So my ex-husband and I, we were classmates in grad school when we were in China studying aerospace engineering. When I was young, I didn't get enough exposure or education about what I should be looking for in a partner. I remember the three things that I was using as criteria. One is that person has to be smart, to match my intelligence. That person has to be good looking. That person has to be sporty. All three criteria are fulfilled. But little did I know that living together, those three things are not enough. And what's more important is actually respect each other, love each other, supporting each other unconditionally. And for me, it took me 16 years to get out of that marriage. For anyone who is listening who may be struggling about a relationship, and nobody can tell you when is a good time to get out of that relationship. I think as human beings, we always have this wish, let me just work a little more. What if it worked? Looking back, do I regret that it took me 16 years to get out of a relationship? I would say no. Of course, it would be better if I realized in the beginning that I shouldn't even get into that marriage. When I made the decision that I need to get out of the relationship, even then, as a mother, I wasn't just thinking about my own happiness. I struggled a lot about, will my children be okay? Will they grow up as a good, fine, young adult without their dad in their life? So that's why it's so hard to make a decision to completely get out of a relationship. But I would say that once we were divorced and I was taking care of my children all by myself as a sole custodian, my children and I had never been so happy. You say, why didn't I do it early? Because you don't know life is going to be like in terms of freedom. However, it is not all rosy because my children were young at the time. One is 11, the other was 6. So imagine a single mother with a full-time job. And then one child need to go to one activity, maybe a piano, the other to soccer. So you have to, on a daily basis, thinking about, I'm going to drop off this child, then come back, maybe drop off to another place, then pick up the other child, then I come home, I need to make dinner. Every day it's like that. So it was extremely difficult. Sometimes I think about that. How did I do it? maybe the hope and maybe thinking about things will get better. But I also had a support of community. I have many friends. I have my family support me, my parents help taking care of their children at times. And also I had great support at work. And my colleagues and my companies offer great benefits. So all of that together. And eventually I landed into a good place.
Were your children born in China or in the US?
They were born here, both of them. So
Okay.
I have four
Okay.
children, two biological children, two stepchildren.
Did you move over here together? Help me bridge that gap.
Yeah, so we were married while we were still in China. As I mentioned, we were classmates in graduate school, and we got married, and then we moved here, study in the same university, and then we had our children. The two
Okay.
biological children I was talking about were with him. When you first came here, you didn't know anyone. The only one you know is the other person. Of course, you're going to stick together, no matter how hard it is. And then you had your first child. You think about, I have to have a dad for my child. And then you had a second children. It's like things got so complicated. It's never a good time.
It's never a good time. I think that is something more women and more people in general need to hear. Because if we waited for a good time, we would be waiting forever. And can you tell me the clarity that you received when you finally had that moment where you're like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I am going to raise my children on my own. I know it was scary for you, but tell me about that journey.
Yeah. So it's not just one time. For people thinking about either leaving a relationship or even leaving a job, it's not like, okay, I'm done. That's it. It's you constantly asking yourself, I'm not happy. Is this the life I want? And then you got better. You're like, okay, it's fun. And then you repeat the cycle. I remember when I really made the final decision, I was journaling, I was asking myself, when was the last time I laughed? I couldn't answer that question. In the
Wow.
beginning, I was like, in 10 years, my kids will be in college. I can wait until they go to college. But then I said, but it's 10 years. I don't think I can survive 10 years without smiling, without laughing, without love. So that was the final straw.
I know that there are a lot of people out there that are staying in marriages because it's easy, because they want to do it for the children, because it's the right thing to do, and quite frankly, because it's financially safer. The message for all of those people that are going through that is think about what's most important at the end of the day. All of the materialistic things can be figured out. All of the financial things can be figured out, but you nailed it. You have one life to live, and your happiness definitely shouldn't be put on a shelf, because it's not something like a canned good where we just put on the shelf and, oh, we'll come back to it. It's something we should have with us all the time. Thank you so much for being personal with that, because I know that it's one of those topics that is not talked about enough, and we need to discuss it.
I wasn't happy. But then I remember as a mother how much I cared about my children. I realized that because I wasn't happy, I can't pretend all the time. So I wouldn't be able to raise happy children. So when you think about that, in the end, the decision was made for me to have a good life and also for my children to have a good life, a good mother.
Yeah, so many times we do try to have these masks that we wear and try to be on guard all the time. And we just wear that I'm fine smile, when deep down we know that that's not the reality. And the fact that you were able to realize that's what you would have been potentially passing down to your children is huge. I want to transition because throughout this season, we are talking about both personal and professional because we know as women that one impacts the other. So, as you were going through these changes, where were you from a professional standpoint?
Yes. And you're exactly right that we can not separate personal life and professional life as much as we want to. They're not separate. If we're not happy at home, we may bring that to work and vice versa. So at the time of my divorce, I was leading global teams working on technology modernization, putting in a lot of hours at work. I remember particularly that at the time I was leading team both in the US and also offshore. And I have to put on that smile in front of people. But I also know at a certain time I'm typing on my keyboard and all of a sudden the tears just came out. I had to rush to the restroom, let the tears fall, clear up my tears and come out, put on a smile again. I can do this. It was extremely hard. I was a leading team, so as a leader, everybody's problem is your problem. If your project isn't going well or need some escalation, it comes to you, and then you go to other stakeholders. I made a decision that this isn't a good time for me to lead teams anymore. So I pivot my leadership position to be an individual contributor by intention. And that gave me, I would say, less stress of leading a team as long as I finish whatever on my plate. I'm done. Other people, then their manager will be responsible. So I did that for a little less than 2 years. But my intention is to make impact. My intention is to be productive. After less than 2 years, I became manager again, leading team again, and never looked back because my kids were older and less they need my time and care. Because of the decision, I am a leader, I have more to offer, I can develop other other team members and leading global projects. And so step by step, I was able to get promoted to be an executive. However, because I was working for a Fortune 25 company at the time, getting promoted to be an executive in the company was extremely hard. So you can't just work hard. Work hard is the foundation. You have to be also strategic.
Let's jump right into that. You mentioned that you stepped back and then went back into leadership. I'm sitting here thinking there's a lot of women out there that are like, I can't do that.
Mhm.
I cannot go from being a leader to being an individual contributor. It feels like a demotion. It feels like I failed. So yes, let's talk about once you make that decision to step back, how do you look at having a strategy in order to go back to leadership when you're ready?
Yeah. When I decided to move from being a manager to an individual contributor, I stepped into a role of architect. So previously I was application development manager, managing team, create new products. And now as an architect, I need to oversee architecture design. I need to develop reusable components. So in a way that it actually allowed me to gain skills. For our audience and listeners, you have to be conscious about, am I adding skills? So McKinsey partner, three of them, they wrote a book about broken wrong. In that, they talk about experience capital. So the experience capital accounts for 50% of our lifetime salary. And what is experience capital? It's what you learned through different experiences. If you stayed in the same role, doing the same job, then you're not gaining experience capital. In my case, even though it looks like a demotion by my own choice, but I was gaining additional role, additional skills, additional connections. So coming back to, so how did I become executive? By not only working hard, but also working strategically. If you think about a senior leaders at that level, it's not just about what you can do alone. It's about the relationships that you are leveraging. It's the team you're leading. Are you uplifting your team so that they can become high performing leaders like yourself? You're almost like, I'm developing the people who can replace me someday. And that's exactly my mentality. I'm developing every single team member so that someday they can make decisions just like me. They can lead team just like me. And the other part is not only you need to manage your team, manage up, manage across, and who are your managers, your managers' managers? Are they aware of what you're doing? Do they have faith in your ability, in your leadership, and your stakeholder? Who are your partners and your customers? Are they saying, wow, I like to work with Jessica because she is so capable. She's always collaborative. So in the end, you work smart and you work strategically by looking at the people around, leveraging the relationship, but also working on something more impactful. Because if you don't deliver results, in the end, that's still the criteria to say, are you capable? Are you qualified?
You talked about managing up, managing down, and networking across the board. That's one thing that women are sometimes afraid to do, especially in a male-dominated industry, which you and I have both been in. Do you have any advice for a woman that is like, I have tried to network with some of these guys, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it because I can't seem to make a connection?
Yeah, that's very true. According to your identity, whatever that identity is, right? It could be the only woman, it could be the only immigrant, it could be the only color person. Whatever that is, it could be barrier. To me, I think it starts with our mindset, how we're thinking about networking. If we already think, I just hate networking, I just don't want to be a social butterfly, then we're already losing. We're not going to do any network.
Right.
My way of looking at network is your network is your net worth. It's not only about who you know, it's also about who knows you, who knows your ability. If you don't go out to network, how would they know what you're doing? The other thing to think about network is a lot of people think if I do network, that means I need to talk to everybody. Not necessarily. Strategically networking is who in that group of people can help me and I can help the other person as well. It's the mutual benefits each other. But in terms of male dominated field, for my whole career, I think whatever your gender, race, nationality, the foundation, we're human beings. I feel that if we look at each other as human beings, having that caring, loving relationship, not romantic love, but I care about you. I had a great relationship with all my colleagues. I can't really tell you how many people that I just dislike them, maybe one or two throughout my career. Not that many, because majority of the people, when you're working together, you're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to deliver a project. So if you collaborate with each other, if you network, through that network, you found another expert who can help you solve the problem and vice versa. That's amazing. I think maybe Aristotle said, if you give me a long enough lever, I can move the moon.
Yeah, that really is great because a lot of times we think about networking as just one person or one transaction. And I specifically say the word transaction because we as a society have become so transactional. It's what can I do for you, but what can you do for me quickly? We forget about the relationship building. That's a great reminder. These relationships take time to nurture. And it's kind of like watering a plant. It takes time. You water it, you may not see the results right away, but then it starts to bloom and you get your fruits or vegetables from it. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you. So far, we packed a lot in a
Yeah.
very short amount of time. But I'm curious, you have 3 master's degrees, and that is absolutely impressive. Right now, we are seeing that more people are calling for higher education. But then we also, on the same hand, see that there's more blue collar jobs that are needing to be filled. What made you decide to obtain 3 master's degrees? And if we have any women toying with the idea of going back to school, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's kind of people going back to school, and there are people, they don't need a high education. Actually, one of my children is taking a gap year for similar reasons. They can find a job and they're happy about it. For me personally, I think my last master degree was in 2007. That is before YouTube. So, as a person who wanted to learn new knowledge, new skills, it feels natural to go back to school to find another way of learning. But also, I think is that this may be motivation or longing to have a PhD degree. Maybe when I'm 80 years old, I will have a PhD degree. But both times I couldn't finish because of family situations, young children, full-time job, all of that. But if I have a choice now, I don't know whether I will go back to school just because, not because school isn't teaching enough skills. School is still valid just because of those disciplines, right? I think we need some motivation for us to keep going because there's milestones in schools, projects need to be due, all of that. But I also believe that the information is available everywhere. AI is a PhD level of intelligence everywhere. So I think it is a personal choice of what are you trying to get out of that. I think that's maybe the intention, and that need everybody to answer themselves.
Yeah, I remember in season 1, I had a guest on and she talked about obtaining her master's degree. She even said it is a commitment, it is hard work. This also goes back to the lived experiences we were talking about. Just curious from your perspective of being a leader and managing people from different backgrounds, different cultures, races, countries. When you're looking at a candidate, what really holds more weight to you? Is it the letters behind their name, or is it that experience that they've lived through?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hired a lot of people. I interviewed even more. Those letters behind their name are not that important to me. And even their experiences may not that important to me. What I'm looking for is a person who is willing to learn, who is quick to learn, a person who is striving for a better version of themselves. When I interview them, they have to show me how would I trust that they are the kind of a person. I also look at how they think. When I ask them a question, and what's the logical thinking in their mind, because critical thinking and problem solving is super important in technology. I also look at their leadership skills, what kind of experience they have. And I think everybody is a leader, how well you lead. And are you a team player? How are you communicating when I ask you a question? Are you able to articulate whether you are speaking English as a second language or not, I think when you articulate, you're able to say, using analogy or a metaphor to explain some complex concept in simple terms or words. And those are the qualities I'm looking for. Not necessarily I worked for some tech companies here and there. I care about what you did and how you did it.
You just mentioned two critical things. I heard you say problem solving and critical thinking. As we are moving into more of AI, we know that soft skills will be required from the workforce coming up. I read something not too long ago that said that they were in the top 10 skills of what employers are looking for right now.
Yeah.
And I know that we touched on AI. What are your thoughts in general on AI? Is it something where you think it's going to end up taking over?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. As a technologist, I am excited about what AI can do, but I am equally aware of the harm it could cause. You and I know the AIs are trained using all the data available, publicly, privately. Those data already have biases embedded. So if you trained by those data, then AI will express that kind of biases. So will AI take over the world? I think it's going to be everywhere. Just like today, not many people can live without the internet. And in the future, not many people will not live a life without AI. Whether you want it or not, it's just there. Personally, I believe a good approach would be to be part of the field of AI. I'm going to either build it, try to understand a large language model or all the machine learning algorithms, or I become a driver of the AI vehicle, which is my role. I use tons of AI tools to help me from end to end as my speaker workflow. Everywhere I go, I use AI tools. But I'm using AI to be my partner, not think for me. I would never outsource my thinking, critical thinking, problem solving to the tool because that's what we human about. I think we should also think about with the AI tools or other tools can do the repetitive or manual work or some other work that we don't enjoy. What is it for us to be a better human? This is actually what I shared during Columbus AI Week. I think we need to tap into the essence of being human, having our conversation like you and I, being open about our lived experiences. The goal is hopefully someone else can benefit from that. Being a human is, I don't have to like you, but I love you. Being a human means I may not know who you are, but I care about your life.
That's great. I did hear just recently, because we were talking about the critical thinking portion of it, that critical thinking is becoming less and less familiar to people because they are letting AI do it for them. And to your point, we have the opportunity to be a driver when it comes to AI. Being in the tech industry, it's fascinating to me how much AI has changed and evolved. By 2030, 60% of the workforce is going to have to be reskilled. There are jobs coming that do not even exist today because of AI. We also know there are jobs today that may not exist in 5 years because of AI. You do have people that are like, absolutely not. I do not want anything to do with AI. But the thing about it is that it surrounds us all the time, and we potentially use it more than we know. Every time you pick up your phone and ask it to look something up for you, every time you have your little box that sits there and her name starts with an A, order something for you on Amazon. These are all examples of where we are using AI today and may not even realize it.
You said it beautifully.
I wanted to make that statement because we're already using it, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
So it's just how you use it, how you harness it to work with you, but not necessarily for you. And I love the human aspect of that because we are losing touch with a lot of the soft skills, the human emotion, people walking down the streets and not even acknowledging or making eye contact with one another.
Yeah.
So really coming back to that human side of it, I believe is going to be critical. We've talked about your evolution from when you first got here and all the way through you being a tech executive, but I want to pivot to how did you make the decision to leave your role in corporate? And more importantly, how did you decide that you wanted to go into being a coach and a speaker once you left corporate?
It wasn't one day I said, I'm done with corporate. It's not like that. I love my job. I was someone who is fortunate, passionate about what they do in technology, leading team, all of that. This needs to go back more than a decade ago. I had a conversation with a best friend. We were saying, if we had everything financially, the mortgage is done, college tuition is paid, what do we want to do? At the time, the answer was paying back to the community, sharing our career learnings, lessons learned. And so I have always been very active in community, whether it's at work or externally. 6 years ago, my best friend Joy, she enrolled into a coaching school. And she is allowed to bring a guest for free for a 3-day weekend leadership training. So I was her guest. After that first day training, I just felt that I found something that I have been looking for my whole life. I don't know whether you ever had such kind of experience. It's just profound. It's like, oh my God. So the next day, I just decided I'm going to enroll in this program. At the time, I was still a single mother. I have one child in college. I was paying tuition, and the other one in high school will be in college pretty soon. So I was paying my mortgage, all of that, right? Car loan. How am I going to pay the tuition? Because it's not trivial. It's a substantial amount of money. At the time, I was engaged with my current husband. But as a woman, I'm like, I'm going to figure out this myself. I'm going to pay this myself. And I was able to find ways. So that is the starting point of my coaching school. So when I first enrolled, it's more of, I found myself. I want to enroll. I want to learn. In the middle of the program, it was 8 months along the program. In the middle of the program, I'm like, but everyone needs to hear this message. That's when I established my coaching school. Because I still had my full-time executive job, leading teams, what I did was during the weekend and in the evenings, I was coaching people. Because my kids were older, they didn't need me to babysit. I did that for 4 years. Every time I had a conversation with leaders, like you mentioned in the beginning, we all have a mask, right? Some of the masks were thin, some other masks were really thick. It's like there's so many barriers or obstacles, challenges that, especially for women in technology. So whenever I was able to support a leader, that is kind of payback to me. I got so fulfilled. So then that message paying back to the community, it's become stronger and stronger. And again, go back to what we said, there would never be a good time. I just had a conversation with my husband, talk about my vision, my longing, my purpose, and then I made the leap.
So what I'm hearing is that this was not something that you did in a matter of months. You planned this out strategically, like a 5-year plan. Is that
Mm,
right?
yes.
All right. So for the women or for anyone out there thinking, I really would like to do something like that, but I'm not sure where to start in order to go from the concept of I want to start this to when you were actually able to make the full transition. What are some of the things that you really needed to think about and get in order for you to be able to plan that out and make that transition?
Yeah. So for me, what I do in the evening, in the week, during the weekend, is perfectly aligned to what I do at work. Because at work, I was a leader. So I use coaching skills to coach my team, to coach the communities. I'm not sure for people who may be doing a side hustle or business that's opposite to what they do, probably it's going to be a little harder. So for me, that alignment allowed me to have a life is just congruent. And also, I think when we think about the future, because it is so big, the change is so dramatic, it can really give us a lot of fear and doubt. But I would say that 5 years ago, when I established the business, I didn't even envision that last year I would get out of my corporate and doing this thing called coaching and speaking. It's like you take one step and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm climbing this mountain. And then you start to climb a different mountain. So I would say that if anyone has any aspiration doing something new, maybe have their sight to the future, but also have their action in the near term. What is one small thing I can do every day to align to that vision? The vision is long and far, but what we do in the meantime, what we do is adding to the full spectrum of us as a person because I'm getting better and I can help other people or contribute to the communities, the world. I feel that will give us a lot more power, purpose, and force to be persistent.
And taking little actions every day definitely add up. One of the things I always encourage my clients to do, and I do myself, is journaling, because sometimes you can't really see the progress that you're making. But if you're documenting what you're doing, your wins, whether they be big or small, when you go back and add all of that up over a year, it is amazing to see the progress that can be made. There may be people thinking, well, I don't know how much time I can commit to my side hustle or what I want to look at doing full time later on. I don't know if I have the money to do it. I don't know if I have the resources. It's scary. And I know that there are certain things that you do have to look at when you're making that transition. But do you have any advice for the listeners?
Yes. So when I did my transition, I did calculation about my finance. Can I survive without my high paying job? And because my husband is also retired, health insurance is super expensive if you pay it yourself. So all of that together. And I think for anyone doing transition, you kind of need to be prepared how long it might take to ramp up for this new business and how much money I have in the bank can support me. Because if you are putting yourself into a position of, oh my God, I have to earn money, I feel that not only you're stressful, but also the way you're doing business, attracting clients, I feel the energy is different. Now it's like I need to have money instead of I really care about you. I want to support you, support your growth. That's just my personal opinion.
No, that's key. There is something different when someone comes to you from a place of service and genuine care versus trying to make money. I truly understand that. And I know that a lot of the listeners out there will take away from that because sometimes when you get wrapped up in the financial portion of it, you lose yourself. We have talked about being authentic, being human. So that's a great reminder for anyone looking at making the transition, or maybe they're in that messy middle, right? They've committed to it and thought it was going to be phenomenal. But sometimes there's a little bit of fog. That in between space can really be uncomfortable from when you start something to when you succeed. But it's true to come from your why, your place of service, and really commit to it and don't give up. That's the other big thing to take from this. Your journey took 5 years for you to quit, and you weren't even looking at that. As we look at wrapping up today, I truly appreciate you being here. For any listeners or watchers that would like to learn more about you, your story, and how to connect, how can they reach you?
Yes, I share one last message because this is
Yeah, go ahead.
important to me.
Yeah.
I got married to my current husband in 2020. This is why I said, if I look back for the 16 years of unhappy marriage, if I have the opportunity to do it again, will I do it again? The answer is yes. Because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't raise two independent, capable children on my own. And I wouldn't be able to marry my current husband, who is my soulmate. And we have been knowing each other for 7 years, and we never had one single argument. We debate, but we don't fight. Okay, now. So if anyone wants to get out of a relationship, there is a hope. That's what I want to share. If you want to connect with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You will be able to find me.
Awesome. One thing I want to leave our listeners and watchers with today is, we've talked about all of these different things to get clarity, but the one reset action I would like our listeners to think about this week is, what is one person that you haven't networked with yet, but you know you really need to? Thank you again. I truly appreciate you being here. To all of our listeners and watchers, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And until next time, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.